Hello, hello, and welcome to the Beauty Manifest. My name is Melinda, your host, and I am thrilled to be filming this episode, which is being done virtually for the first time ever. Why, you might ask? Well, some of you might remember Dr. Christine Coleman from one of the prior episodes that I've filmed, and she and I just hit it off right away. We had such an amazing conversation about our mothers, about grieving, about the connection between beauty and mental health. So if you haven't already, I definitely recommend you go back and you check out her interview. I'll link it in the description below. But if you have not watched it yet and you want to watch this first, that's also okay. You can go back later. So no pressure. Dr. Coleman and we're trying something out. She approached me about coming on her idea, which I love, as the Beauty Manifest's resident mental health expert. And I absolutely fell in love with this idea. You all know I love mental health and I geek out on it, but I have so much admiration and respect for those who have dedicated their career to this work and are truly experts in this space. We want to create more snackable 30-minute episodes for you where we will be responding to your questions and unpacking mental health subjects from prior guest episodes. So to start, we're going to be targeting to add one of these a month or so, in addition to the guest and interview episodes that I film and release every other week. So about once a month, I'll have an incremental episode with Dr. Christine Coleman. As a mental health advocate, mental health and wellness is a thread that strings through the foundation of this podcast. I've always felt really passionately about inviting experts on for us to all learn from, because I'm a lot of things. I'm a beauty director, I'm a makeup artist, I'm a professional speaker, I'm a cat mom, I'm a lot of things in my life, but I am not a mental health professional. I'm an advocate. And so I really want to bring those experts on and so that we can all learn from them. So before I bring Christine on, I want to tell you a little bit about her professional background. I'm literally going to read her bio because her background, her experience, her entire essence is so impressive, and there's so much there. I don't want to miss anything. So bear with me, but it'll be worth your time to get to know her a little bit better. So Dr. Christine Coleman is the founder and CEO of Cura Wellness, a consulting and private practice firm specializing in the intersection of mental health and equity-centered leadership. With over 15 years of clinical experience, 15, Dr. Coleman supports high-achieving, diverse leaders and the organizations committed to their growth and retention. Her work equips companies to embed psychological safety, belonging, and cultural care into their leadership strategies so their teams don't just perform, they thrive. Grounded in deep clinical expertise and evidence-based approaches, Dr. Coleman partners with people-driven companies to build cultures that sustain both innovation and well-being. Dr. Coleman has trained leading companies like Pinterest, Business Wire, Coursera, Udemy, MuleSoft, and MuleSoft by Salesforce, and the Major League Baseball Network. I'll also throw in that Dr. Coleman and I are working on a little special event for Sephora as well, coming out soon. It'll be for Sephora's internal corporation, but it's so cool that she works both in front of the camera as a speaker, but also behind the scenes doing the real work for the individuals that are at these companies, and really making a difference in the corporate space where I've been for so long and I so see the need for. So I'm really passionate about what she's doing there. Dr. Coleman has been a featured contributor to prestigious media outlets, including Harvard Business Review, Fast Company, Vogue, MSN, and Huffington Post. Dr. Coleman is an internationally recognized speaker and has spoken at Yale's Mental Health Conference, no big deal, UC Berkeley, and the American College Health Association, and more. She received the University of San Francisco's Living the Mission Award for her dedication to serving women and girls. Dr. Coleman is the founder and executive director of Soul Sisters Incorporated, a nonprofit with a mission to help women overcome societal barriers and by providing educational and empowering experiences that promote personal and professional evolution. Dr. Coleman is also an executive and performance to diverse, influential leaders who desire to prioritize their mental health and their well being. She holds a BS in psychology from Azusa Pacific University, a master's in counseling psychology from the University of San Francisco, a license to practice marriage and family therapy in California, and a PhD in marriage and family therapy from Eastern University. I told you all it's a mouthful because she has so much experience under her belt, and that's why I'm so honored and thrilled to have her here. So without further ado, hello, Dr. Coleman.
Hello, Melinda.
Hi, thank you for being here. Welcome back, I should say.
Thank you. So excited to be with you again.
Yeah, I felt like the moment that we met, I almost felt bad because with your episode, with your interview, Natasha was still interviewing with me, and I was like so
Yes.
consumed and so into all of our parallels and all of our like just shared kind of life experiences and perspectives. I felt like I barely let anyone else get a word in. But that's why this is just so perfect. So thank you for being here. Um, I guess I would love to hear like a little bit of what drew you into this kind of work, what made you want to contribute to the Beauty Manifest.
Yes. Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you. I feel the exact same way. We hit it off when we initially met, and in so many ways, right? We were connected with both experiencing the loss of our mothers to our journeys as makeup artists, and I love your advocacy for mental health. And that's really what not only drew me in to want to be a guest and feel so honored to be a guest the first time, but as we continued our friendship and finding ways where we could remain in touch after we recorded that, I really got to learn more about your investment. It wasn't even just an interest for you, but your investment in mental health advocacy and the ways that you have been able to weave mental health into all the conversations that you've had, everything that you stand for outside of the podcast. And so I was like, she is my girl. She is definitely somebody I want to be close to. And how can I contribute? And that is something that was just really speaking to me. I think you and I really also connect on like what feels really natural and really right, especially in the different seasons that we go through. And that was something that felt really natural to me to ask and pitch. And I'm so glad that you said yes. So, the Beauty Manifest House is such a unique space to bring in all of the trends, all the fun, the conversations, the ways that we interact with beauty, which is so attractive and popular and has been. But this concept of weaving mental health in is really unique and special. And I feel excited and honored to contribute to that part.
I just love how much you get it. And I think a lot of
Yeah.
experts in the mental health space, they definitely do get it just from their experience and their education. But there's so many people that I talk to and I'll tell them about the Beauty Manifest and they're like, I don't get it. What does beauty have to do with mental health or vice versa? And meanwhile, you and I are like, there are so many connections.
So many. Yes.
So many. So that's what you and I get to explore here in these, a little bit more snackable 30-minute episodes. Dr. Christine and I will be answering your questions. Well, she'll be answering your questions. I'll be kind of like the normie asking on behalf of everyone out there. Uh, so whether it's questions that we prompt you for on TBM's Instagram or whether we're unpacking subjects from prior guest interviews that I'm doing independently, there's going to be a lot of goodness here and a lot of information. So heads up to look out for those prompts on Instagram so you can submit any questions that you might have. But we've already taken a good amount of time here just chatting and getting to know Dr. C, which is so important. But I thought we could spend the rest of our time here just for a few minutes talking about um, a question or rather a topic that I wanted to use as an example prompt. So when we're posting on TBM social asking you, what do you want to hear about? This is kind of something that came to mind and I thought we could use it as an example. I've been noticing and I don't know if you've seen this, Dr. C, but a lot of celebrities out there who are all of a sudden sharing all of their plastic surgery, all of their cosmetic procedures, whether it's injectables, facelifts, facials, even, and just being really transparent about what they're doing behind the scenes and maybe not speaking to as much on their Instagram or in the mainstream. And I found this to be amazing. I just feel like it's such a breakthrough, and I this is like my favorite kind of trend is the trend of transparency and honesty. Um, but yeah, from your expert perspective, what can something like this in the digital space do? What kind of impacts can it have on both those who are sharing and both who are receiving?
Yeah, thank you. I love this topic. I'm seeing it as well. And there are a few ways that this can go. I think we can think about the beauty industry as a whole, and this is really where you shine. But I also feel just so thankful that I have had some experience in the beauty industry and studied a lot of beauty trends and the impact on our mental health from beauty standards across decades. So I think we can all agree that beauty standards sometimes or many times can be very unrealistic. They can make us feel insecure or pour into or contribute to our insecurities. And they can also be very liberating and very empowering and allow us to express ourselves and move in the world in a way that makes us feel super bold and beautiful and confident. So it's a complex world, and I really want us to normalize that first and foremost. Secondly, to the point of what we're seeing right now, more front facing on social media, is this call for influential people to be honest. And it's really cool to see people, in my opinion, move in that honesty, respond to the call and expectation of their great influence by not necessarily hiding behind the procedures, presenting in ways that maybe look physically apparent, but maybe are not shared. And I want to really help us normalize that too, that because of the shame and stigma, people of great influence to everyday people are very hesitant to talk about, especially invasive procedures. I think there is a difference between I'm trying out this palette versus I am having an invasive procedure done of some sort or something to alter my appearance in a more permanent or semi permanent way. Those are the parts I think people seem to have more shame with. So, the takeaway here is that we're experiencing both. I think that influential people are doing their part, and hopefully, it provides them some freedom to be themselves. And I think at the same time, we also have to be careful about how we digest that information. And I can get into that in a minute, but I'm curious if that is landing in the way that you perceive it as well from your perspective as a beauty professional.
Yeah, I'm so excited. I mean, from working behind the camera at Sephora, there was a weight on my shoulders. I was on set coaching our talent. I was creating the concepts for our videos. I was feeding into the edits of our videos. I was analyzing our engagement. And so I felt this responsibility, but also this awareness of the impact that we had. And I saw how well received vulnerability and transparency and more raw and real behavior on camera performed so much better. Not just from like a moral standpoint, but from literally a performance standpoint, it was better.
Mhm.
And so I wanted
Mhm.
to encourage that. And it's not always easy because we're brought up in a society where vulnerability can feel really scary. It's not always viewed as a strength, especially for celebrities and people in the public eye. And so, as much as I'm like, hell yes, we've been waiting for this in the beauty industry, I'm also like, I understand why it's taken us this long to see a trend like this. And I am just applauding those out there who are sharing these things because it's not an easy thing to do. And I think when you step in front of the camera, there's a lot of responsibility that's placed on you, and there's no guidebook for that. So I truly feel like most people are good people and they're just doing their best. Um, but yeah, I really applaud what we're seeing. I think it has a really positive impact. But I can also imagine that it's probably bringing up a lot for people who aren't comfortable sharing those things. Yeah, so there really is no guidebook. And I think from a beauty industry point of view, working with beauty influencers, brand founders, even celebrities in the makeup and skincare space, um, I just don't know how I feel about picking them apart for not sharing. It's kind of
Mm.
when you step in front of the public eye, how much of that is your responsibility? And how do we analyze that as the viewer from the outside? Because as a observer from the inside, I know it's not easy for everyone. I know we weren't raised in a society that taught us how to do this. Um, so how can we navigate our expectations of those who are in front of the camera and those who we might like to see a little bit more transparency from?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, and it makes a lot of sense. It brings me to think about how we initially started off this conversation about a push for more vulnerability and transparency. People are showing up on social media, bringing their full selves, and the call is if you are a trendsetter, we would like to know the full, honest, all around honesty of what you're actually doing so that we, ultimately why? Because people want to build trust with these people, especially if they're following them, especially if they're buying from them. People want to invest in the whole person. And you are the first to probably understand too, like there, when it comes to a consumer, what am I trying to say?
A
Um,
consumer relationship,
a
because
consumer
I
relationship. Yes.
that's exactly right. Because for me, I really
Mm,
do. Once I stepped in as a beauty director for Sephora and I became a public figure, I did feel the responsibility to share what injections I'm having done or what
mm,
facials that I'm having done, because otherwise I'm only sharing the skincare that I'm using, which is amazing and has done,
mm.
wonders for me. But there's a whole
That's
other
awesome.
side of it. And I think the industry is really hyper focused on product. And that's what a lot of creators and celebrities are being encouraged to speak about. But there's a whole other side to it for so many of us. So I started to share that.
Hmm.
And yeah, that consumer relationship is so
Yes.
important to consider.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for bringing that insight in here because it's true on a human relational from the point of of human relationship and the ways that we build trust is transparency and through that is vulnerability. And we're seeing that even in this beauty industry and what we're seeing now is the current trend of asking people to share and they're responding to that. I think one part that we can also be thoughtful about, which can be hard for everyday people, is making space for empathy and honoring celebrity and influential people's humanity too, because even though you mentioned there is no guidebook, right? So even though they are charged with tasks to present with the top beauty standards and trends, and some of them are selling these trends, profiting from these trends. At the same time, I think we can leave a bit of space for humanity and allow people to figure it out. And then, dare I say, people are entitled to their privacy too. I know that social
Yes.
media allows us and calls us in to share, but all of us, including celebrities, have a right to our privacy. And I want us to really be thoughtful about that collectively, about how do we demand more to build the trust and safety, especially if there's influence and money involved, and especially our well being involved too. If people are being exposed to people who have had altering types of procedures, that's a risk, right? There's risk involved with those different types of steps. And if you see somebody living their lives and maybe they didn't share about what that process was like for them or why or what have you, that can be confusing for the person digesting this information or prompt a lot of our other insecurities too, that I'll never look like this or this is what the standard is now that I'll never achieve. But that's the whole point of me really emphasizing in this case. Check in with yourself because the trends are always going to be there. They're going to be changing. Tune into yourself. let's leave a little bit of space and empathy for influential people to figure out how they're coming out and sharing these things while still holding people accountable and calling them into vulnerability. And then also leaving space all around in this era of sharing and even oversharing sometimes let's leave space for some privacy too. Everyone has a right to privacy.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's like anything else in this world, it's not black or white. There's
Mhm.
gray area, and I
Yep.
think we have to practice some compassion. I have just always been such an open book. It's how my all the women in my family are, how my mom was like,
Mm,
and I have to remind myself on a regular basis when I'm speaking to people and they're like, "How do you get in front of the camera and just like talk?" And I'm like, "It just comes so naturally." And
that's amazing.
I'm blessed for that because of the line of work I'm in and because of what I like to do and what I'm passionate about. It's an incredibly good fit, but that's not everybody. And just because someone steps into the public eye because their passion is acting or singing, it doesn't necessarily mean that they have to share their private self. Um, and maybe that's where we draw the line of
Yeah.
expectations here. It's like, okay, if you're selling
Mm,
beauty products, there might be a little bit more pressure coming from Melinda to share what you're doing behind the scenes as
mm,
well. But
yeah,
if you're not
I like that.
selling products in that capacity, then like you do you. And
Mm,
even if you are, I still hold some grace because everyone's on their own journey. I just think it's important that we think about if you have a platform, it's important to think about what you're putting out there and how it can impact others.
yeah. I love that so much. And it does remind me, I have a 7-year-old daughter and a 5-year-old son for that matter. And just watching her in her young years and taking in more beauty content, watching especially women on TV and loves Taylor Swift and all these entertainers. Oh my gosh, that is like she's a sponge right now and she wants to look like them and move like them. It starts young. And unfortunately, there's a difference for a lot of young people and all of us, but especially young people who are consuming this information. And then we know that we move immediately into comparison. And that does put people of influence in a position of being really thoughtful and mindful about how they present. I can't imagine what that might be like to know that every move you're making is dissected and judged. And unfortunately, even the folks who are calling people for more vulnerability to share might also be some of the folks who are being the first to judge and shame for having procedures or changes or alterations done in the first place. So let's
Yeah.
just be really thoughtful. I love the word that you called in of compassion. It's really tough. I think that accountability, responsibility is fair for people who are of influence, who are influencing us to buy or change or alter. At the end of the day, these are our own personal decisions. So I agree, there is a responsibility that you and other people have. And I love that you're taking that seriously. But I do think that we have gotten a little bit skewed in what our expectations are of people too. And maybe we need to make a little bit more space and grace for humanity and human compassion for folks all across different layers of privilege.
Yeah, it's so easy to sit behind a keyboard and judge, right?
Okay, yep, that's so true. It is.
This is truly just like a little bit of a taste of what we can go into here. I know we spent half of this episode just kind of doing an introduction, but want to let everyone know that they should be looking out for prompts on social media to enter their own questions so that Dr. C can answer them here. And Dr. C, thank you just so much for coming on, for sharing yourself and your expertise with
Thank
us.
you.
And I look forward to next time.
Me too. Thank you so much, Melinda.